Hey there, thanks for checking out the video today. This one will be about the Harvest Right freeze dryer unit and basically all of the setup that goes with that. We've had this unit for a few weeks now and are just getting around to finally setting it up, and wanted to make this video for anybody who is thinking about buying one, or maybe you are in the same situation and you're a little weary about putting it together and running that first cycle. We have had it set up on a stainless steel table right behind me for a few weeks, so the refrigerant is nice and settled, and if we do have time to run a cycle in it, we will be able to do that. If you're watching this and you are just setting yours up, I believe it says you need to wait 24 hours before you run it, just to make sure everything is settled inside of the unit. The one that we have is the medium size unit, so we have 4 trays in there, and we have the Premier pump, so it goes several more cycles, I think 20 to 30 over the smaller size pump that's 4 to 5 cycles. And we'll go through things that are in the box. I'll put them out on the table and show what comes with the unit. We also did purchase some Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers in addition, and some extra trays. But if we do get to run a cycle today, we will be doing some sliced bread that we had stored in the freezer for a period of time, because it said to use that to get that new car smell out. And I believe you basically wet the bread just so it has something to absorb maybe smells or anything, residues that might be in there from production. All right, so we'll go ahead and just get on into the setup, and you'll hear and see my husband assisting as well, since I'm pretty much a novice at doing anything like this. So, all right, let's do it. This has the 4 shelves in it, and let's just open it up. Pretty simple design. It's where all the trays would go for your items to be freeze dried. Up top is the screen. Hi there. And once we get it plugged in, we'll be able to show the setup for that as well. So this is the Premier vacuum pump that was in the box, and with it also came a quart of oil to get you started. I'll put a bit of oil on it. So just kind of wiping it down, keeping it clean. Looks like the Ghostbusters unit. So while he's doing that, here's a close-up of the unit itself. So we've got 4 shelves in here. Good recovery. Okay, there is a small owner's manual that came with the vacuum pump, and we're just kind of following the guide in there, and we're gonna pour some oil in now. So we just had a little bit of an overfill, and if you turn the knob that he's got right there, you can pour the oil back into the container. And right there is where the level is of how much oil is in there. So we're, what, about middle right now? A little over middle?
About middle.
Okay. Okay, so we got the oil filter back on, oil filled, cleaned up. So that's the vacuum hose then? Okay. Okay, so this is the setup. The vacuum hose is attached to the right side of the freeze dryer here, and then the hose goes all the way down here to the vacuum pump, and here's the other connection. And then there's a plug off the back of it, which we got to figure out where we're going to plug that in at. So one of the steps they say to follow is just make sure that your unit is in the off position while you're hooking all this up. So you want to keep that off. Okay, so we went ahead and pulled this out of the hole. This is on the left side of the unit here. And the hose that comes with it for, I believe it's moisture drainage, attached to this elbow here. And then we'll put a bucket down below for it to drop down into. On the back of the unit, you have two plugs. This one is to power the actual unit, the freeze dryer, and currently it is in the off position. And then this plug is attached to the vacuum pump down below. Okay, so now the freeze dryer is completely set up. As I said before, it's been sitting on this stainless steel table for about 2 weeks, and we have now plugged in the drain valve that goes down to a 5-gallon bucket below. And on this side, we have the vacuum pump hose that goes down to the vacuum pump, in addition to the plug from the vacuum pump up to the rear of the unit, and then the power plug that goes to our wall. And now we go to turning it on and doing the hopefully very simple on-screen guide. We are going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm pretty much following the guide step by step right here. So we're now gonna go ahead and turn on the unit at the back. Took a little second to get it on. Believe in there, it says that's normal. All right, so we don't have a system name or anything set up. We can customize everything or start. So we'll probably come back to the name part and just go through the process of setting up the operations on here. All right, so just to kind of see what happens when you hit these, if you go to customize, these are the just standard times that they have and temperatures that they have set, and you can adjust them if you want. Don't really know anything about that quite yet. We go to start. The unit is coming on. And in addition, now that I also turn on the unit, and I'll get back to that screen in a second, we went ahead and made sure that the power button was placed in the on position on the vacuum pump. So once we pressed start, this is the next screen that came on, and it's wanting you to kind of set up the vacuum pump customization. So we have the Premier oil pump, and we want to save that. So now at this point, it's wanting to run a cycle, and of course right here it's just telling us that we need to wait 15 minutes before loading trays because it just needs to get it cooled down to a certain temperature, I'm sure. As this continues to cool down, we are going to be putting on these trays that came with the unit. There was 4 of them, so one for each of the shelves in the unit. We're going to be putting lightly moistened bread on here, and we saved some bread that just kind of was past its expiration, and I will put that on here next. All right, so we've got our moistened bread, and it's, you know, it's a little floppy, but not falling apart. And when the unit is done, which we've dropped another 3 degrees since I put this bread down, we will go ahead and put these in and start the process. So we just hit 15 minutes and down to 48 degrees. The screen is now telling us to load the food into the freeze dryer and close the drain valve. Now, in this, I already have the drain valve closed, and here sits all of our bread to go into the freeze dryer. Nice and cold. All right, let's get it closed back up. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and hit continue. Oh, there we go. And now it says freezing. Okay, came downstairs to check on the freeze dryer, and right now we're an hour and 14 minutes and -9 degrees Fahrenheit in the freezing stage. The next stage is the main freezing, and then you have the drying. Probably won't see those stages, but we'll see when we check back on it tomorrow. We are now in the vacuum freezing stage. Looks like we're around -28 to -30 Fahrenheit. I see it jumping around a bit. And the window's got a bit of condensation on it. And bread looks pretty much exactly the same. Not too much change, but really can't wait to see what this looks like when it's done. All right, is the next day in the morning, and the process is complete. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but the freeze dryer every few seconds or so is making a little beeping sound. So I'm sure that's to let me know that something needs to be done. So from the booklet, if everything is good to go, you will open the drain valve vent on the side while making sure that the hose and the bucket that you have it in is empty, because if there's any liquid in it, it can actually suck the water back into the unit. Opening this valve will also help release pressure in the unit, so you'll be able to open the door. And we'll go ahead and do that now. You hear the sound. You see a lot of that air suction with the hose. So as a practice run, since it's still very cold in here, 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to go ahead and hit warm trays. And this process takes 5 to 10 minutes, and then at that point we will unload the unit. There wasn't any moisture on the front of the glass or anything like that. You can still see the bread looks exactly how it looked when it went in. So we will check back here in a few minutes and see if we can open this up. So this process happens pretty quickly. It's about 95 degrees in here now. We're gonna go ahead and open up the door. So the tray should be at least warm to the touch. Here's our bread. Actually, yeah, I don't even need the oven mitt. They are nice and warm. Bottom one's a little chillier than the others. All right, so for now, we'll just go ahead and close this door again while we look at everything. So we are complete. We'll pick up one of these pieces and see what our dryness level is. Yeah, it's definitely good. It's crumbling apart. So at this moment, if this was something that you were going to package and keep, this would be when you would be doing all of that, because every minute that this is out, it risks taking on oxygen and going bad and being a wasted product. So what I would like to do is actually take one of these pieces and try reconstituting it with a paper towel, I believe, because if you try to do it in water, it just becomes a mushy, soggy mess. But maybe we'll do it both ways just to do a comparison. I did make the mistake of not filming. I went ahead and selected no defrost and have kept the door open just a tad for airflow, but not enough for things to just fly into the unit. I selected no defrost because I'm not sure exactly how soon we will be using the unit again. We are prepping some food now, but it probably shouldn't be that soon. And you can kind of see in here some of the ice that has formed on here back there. So like I said, I went ahead and hit no defrost so nothing else happens. And if I had hit defrost, a defrost completed screen would have come up here when it was done. We're gonna rehydrate some of the bread now, and we've got a bowl for some water to go in, and then we've got a bowl that the other one will just sit in with a moistened paper towel. So I'm gonna pour the water in this one. Just do a little bit to start. And then this one, I'm gonna spray this paper towel with some water. And then it's pretty wet. And then put a piece of bread in it and wrap it up in that. Put it in this bowl. And then the other piece I'll just set in here and we'll come back and check on it. All right, so coming in, checking back, this is the piece that had water poured in and the piece just placed in. This part is still all dry. And this is partially wet, little smushy. That's still hard. You can see it's pretty squishy. Now this piece, the one in paper towel, got a little bit of a weak spot there. So although not squishy, but still pretty hard, maybe we'll just spray some water directly on it to see. And then give it a flip. And then we'll put the towel back over it. Come back and check. So it's been about another 30 minutes and checking on this. bread. We've got our piece that was just in water, and as you can see upon touching, it's too much. It's still hard here, and picking it up, it just kind of almost is disintegrating at the top. Now the one that was in the paper towel, and then I ended up spritzing that bread directly, it's a little bit better of shape. I still don't know if I'd eat it for the sandwich use, but maybe if you were going to toast it. My husband thought maybe if you put it in a bag with some water, basically to slowly take on water, that would be a good option. But yeah, fun little experiment to see. So I just want to follow up after we did a natural defrost instead of running a defrost. We had the door just slightly gaping to let air kind of run through it naturally, and mostly, as you can see, like dust particles try to get in there. But opening it, you can see that this tray unit, or the shelving unit, it can come out, but only after you have removed this gasket, which we'll go ahead and do just to kind of see that process. Just kind of gently do it. And I'd say it's probably good to check that just to make sure you don't have any moisture or mold growth over time. Go ahead and set it down on the table here. And of course it should hopefully look pretty clean still. But yeah, you have your metal ring around here that the gasket goes on, and then at that point you can take this out and you can see that it's open on all the sides, and it's got a little insulation of some kind of, you know, plastic board. And you know, this is cleanable, but I mean within reason. But let's get that out. Little moisture still on top there. And it's attached at the back. So I'm just holding the shelving unit to show like what the inside of this looks like. Basically just a cylinder, and you can still see some moisture on top there. And then of course this cord attaches to the shelving unit. I'm guessing that helps with getting things nice and cold, or at the end of the cycle, warming the trays up so you can remove things quickly and easily. So I used both hands to kind of get the gasket back on to start, and then I was just finishing up putting it back on, just kind of going around and making sure it's met up as much as it can go. And this will continue defrosting, I guess, until we use it next. And the hose worked really well coming out of the back to get moisture out. So as a closer look, you can see this is the hose coming out of the unit and came down out of this hose and into the bucket, if I can get it to focus. There we go. So there's not like a ton of water in there, but a good amount, and probably some dirt from a dirty bucket. So it's the next day now after we've done the throwaway bread, and it was really cool to see this process. Bread was the perfect thing to see and kind of play with and see how crunchy and hard it got. And of course, trying to reconstitute it was a fun mess in itself. But we are really looking forward to trying other foods. We already have 4 trays of pre-frozen things upstairs in our freezer to try, and they're more meal things than just, you know, a specific item. We did throw some apples on a tray just to see how that goes, and we look forward to trying that out and, you know, testing out packaging and the oxygen absorbers, and maybe doing some different types of containers instead of just those bags. We do hope that anybody watching this found some helpful tips, and if you're on the fence, like I've said previously, that this led you to either get it or decide against it. But it's going to be a fun adventure of lots of freeze drying food. We really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.